Good morning, everybody. Once again, I welcome you all for today's English session. Hope all are doing good. Okay, as you know, we have already started the lesson, The Happy Prince, from our supplementary reader moments. Almost half of the lesson has been finished. Okay, so let's move on to the new portion. So before moving ahead with the new portion, let me give you a brief summary of the portion that I taught you in the last class. As I told you, the short story, The Happy Prince, it's written by Oscar Wilde. Okay, so please listen. I'll give you the summary of the portion that I taught you in the last class. Once in a town there lived a prince. He was called the Happy Prince because he had been happy all his life. After his death, his statue was erected on a tall pedestal in the middle of the town. The statue was covered with gold and had two precious sapphire stones embedded in the eyes. A ruby stone had been fitted into the handle of his sword. From there, he could see all around the place and realized that the people lived in a lot of poverty and misery. This sight saddened the prince, and being helpless, he would weep to see the plight of his people. One day, a swallow was flying through the city on its way to Egypt to meet his friends. On the way, it took shelter for the night at the feet of the statue of the Happy Prince. The bird realized that the statue was weeping, and upon enquiry realized the plight of the prince. The helpless prince requested the bird to help it by becoming its messenger. After initial refusal, the bird agreed and took the ruby stone out of the sword hilt and delivered it to a poor seamstress. The next morning, as he went to bid goodbye, the statue convinced him to stay back for one more day. That day, the bird was asked to remove the sapphire stone from one of the statue's eyes and deliver it to a young playwright. Children, this much portion we have completed in our last class. So let's see the rest of the story. I hope you read the whole lesson and watched the YouTube video. Okay, so let's move on to the new portion. Let me read the portion. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wings. And when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. "I am beginning to be appreciated," he cried. "This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my play." And he looked quite happy. The next day, the swallow flew down to the harbor, and he sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailor working. "I'm going to Egypt," cried the swallow, but nobody minded. And when the moon rose, he flew back to the Happy Prince. So what's going on there, children? Yes. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eyes. So what did the swallow do, children? Yes, the swallow plucked out the prince's eye. So what's happening there, children? Yes, the Happy Prince commanded the little swallow to pluck out the eyes. Pluck out the eyes means pluck out the sapphire stone, and flew away to the young man's garret. Garret, as I told you, what is the meaning of garret? Garret means a small dark room at the top of the house. Garret means a small dark room at the top of a house. So what's going on there, children? Yes, the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew to the young man's garret. It was easy enough to get in as there was a hole in the roof. So it's easy for the little swallow to get into the room of the young man or to the room of the playwright because there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted. Darted means he pushed forward. So through this hole he pushed forward and came into the room. So the young man had his head buried in his hands. So what he was doing, the children, the young man, the playwright? Yes, he was holding his head in his hands. So he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wings. He did not hear the sound of the bird's wings. So when he looked up, he found that beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. As I told you in the last class, withered means worn out. Violet, it's a kind of a flower. So when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire stone lying on the withered violets. So he became very happy. What did he do, children? Yes, I am beginning to be appreciated. So what's the reply or what's the response of the young man, children? Yes, the young man, what did he do? He became very happy. He thought that it was a gift from a great admirer. The man thought that it was a gift from one of his great admirer. So now I can finish my play, and he looked quite happy. So the young playwright, he became very happy to see the precious stone sapphire. So he thought that he could finish his work soon, and he looked so happy. The next day, the swallow flew down to the harbor. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors working. So he had done his duty. That is what is the happy prince requested him to do. So he had done it very clearly or very correctly. Then what did he do? The next day, the swallow flew down to the harbor. Harbor, what's the meaning of harbor? Harbor means seaport. Seaport. So the next morning, the bird flew down to the harbor and sat on a mast of a ship. Then he spoke loudly. What did he say? Yes, he spoke loudly that he was going to Egypt. Then, I'm going to Egypt, cried the swallow, but nobody minded. And when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. So when the moon rose means when it was evening, he came back to the happy princess. So he came back to the happy princess statue. I have come to bid you goodbye. Once again, swallow told the happy prince that it had come to say goodbye to him. He was going to Egypt. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? So what's going on there, children? Once again, the happy prince requested the swallow to stay with him for one more night. Then happy prince answered, it's winter and the snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. So the swallow said to the happy prince that the winter season had started, and after some time it would start snowing, So the weather in Egypt, it was warm, and even the crocodiles lay on the mud lazily there. So he told him to let him to Egypt. Children, as you know, birds would migrate to warm countries in order to escape from the harsh climate. So here also the little swallow, it wants to escape from the harsh climate. So it's winter. So he wanted to go to Egypt. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and even the crocodiles lay on the mud lazily there. So he told him to let him go to Egypt. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she is crying. So what is he trying to say, children? She has no shoes or stockings and her little head is bare. Pick out or pluck out my other eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. So what's going on there, children? Now this was the third assignment. Do you remember the first assignment? Yes, the first assignment, the happy prince asked him to give the ruby or the precious stone ruby to a seamstress, and the second one, it was to be given to a playwright. Then the third one, this was the third assignment. So what was the third assignment, children? Here it is. So listen. Now this was the third assignment. The happy prince said that there was a match girl. There stands a match girl in the square below. So he had seen a match girl. She was a little girl, and all her matchsticks had fallen in the gutter. Gutter, sewage. Sewage, sewage, not a sewage, children. Sewage is the correct pronunciation. Sewage. So what happened to the girl, children? Yes, all her matchsticks had fallen in the gutter or sewage and got wet. All her matchsticks were spoiled, so she could not sell them. So she would not earn any money too. And when she would go home without money, what would be her condition? Yes, her father would get angry and beat her, no doubt. So for this reason, the girl was crying. So what she was doing, the children? Yes, she was crying. What's the reason? Because all her mistakes had been fallen in a gutter. So, for this reason, the girl was crying. Further, the happy prince said that she was not wearing shoes or stockings. She has no shoes or stockings. And she had not covered her head. That means she was very poor. Her little head is bare. Bare means it's not covered. So what is going on there, children? Yes, the little girl, she was not wearing shoes or stockings and she had not covered her head. She was very poor. So he said to the swallow, or he asked swallow to take out another sapphire from his eyes and give it to her so that her father didn't beat her. Okay, so he asked the little swallow to pluck out the other eye and give it to her or for this reason her father would not beat her. Okay, so I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then. So what's the response of the little swallow? Yes, I agreed. I will stay with you for one more night. Swallow agreed to stay with him for one more night, but he refused to take out the other sapphire. What's the reason, children? Because if he did that, then Happy Prince would be blind. Okay. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I commanded you. So, little swallow became helpless. What's the reason, children? Yes, the happy prince commanded her to do what he did. So, what he said? So, he plucked out the prince's other eye. He plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. What a lovely bit of glass, cried the little girl, and she ran home laughing. So what's the condition of the little girl, children? Yes, again, the happy prince told Swallow to do what he had ordered him. So at last, Swallow became helpless. What did he do, children? Yes, he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down, pushed forward. Darted means pushed forward down with it, and he swooped past the match girl. What's the meaning of swooped? Swooped means fly very low. What did he do? Swooped means fly very low. So he took the other sapphire stone from his eye and flew to the little match girl. And when he saw the match girl, he bent very low, or he flew very low and kept the sapphire stone on the little girl's hand. The little girl was very happy to see the stone, and she went home happily by laughing. So she ran home laughing. That means she went home happily. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said, so I will stay with you always. So when Swallow returned to the happy prince, he told him that he was blind. Who was blind now? Yes, the happy prince, he became totally blind because his two eyes, the two sapphire stones were taken off. So he became blind. So the little swallow told him that he would stay with him forever. So I will stay with you always. He would stay with him forever. No, little swallow, said the poor prince, you must go away to Egypt. You must go away to Egypt, as he also know that winter season started. So he asked him to go to Egypt. But no, I will stay with you always, said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. So what happened there, children? Yes, the swallow refused to go back to go to Egypt, not to go back. The swallow refused to go to Egypt to his friends and said that he would stay with him. And she slept on the the little swallow slept on the happy prince's feet. Okay, so let's move on to the next portion. Yes, all the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. So what's going on there, children? Yes, the swallow. All the next day, the swallow sat on the prince's shoulder and tell him the stories of the different places he had visited. Did you get the sentence, children? All the next day, he sat on the prince's shoulders and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. So he stayed along the happy prince all the time and told him the stories of the different places that he had visited. Dear little swallow, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things. But more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. There is no mystery as so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow. Tell me what you see there. So the happy prince asked the swallow to tell him the wonderful things. But added that nothing was more wonderful than the sufferings of the people. No mystery was bigger than sadness. So he wanted to know all who were sad in his kingdom. So he asked the swallow to go and let him know what he saw while flying over the city. Did you get the sentence, children? Yes, dear little swallow, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. So here, the happy prince, not the little prince, children, the happy prince asked the swallow to tell him the sadness or tell him the sufferings of the people. So he wanted to hear the sufferings of the people of his kingdom. So as he says, no mystery was bigger than sadness. So he wanted to know who always sad in his kingdom. So he asked the swallow to fly over his city and tell him what he saw there. Okay, he asked the swallow to go and let him know what he saw while flying over his city. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. Under the archway of a bridge, two little boys were lying in each other's arms to try and keep themselves warm. How hungry we are, they said. You must not lie here, shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. So, what is going on there, children? Yes. So, what is going on there? Yes. The swallow flew over the great city. The swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses. So, what is going on there, children? Yes, the swallow flew around the city and took a round over the city, and he saw that the rich people were living happily in their beautiful houses. And they were partying while the poor people were begging and sitting outside the gates. So what is going on there, children? Yes, the little swallow flew over the great city and he saw the rich people making merry. They were very happily living there happily in their beautiful houses. But the condition of the poor people, it's very pathetic. The poor people were begging and sitting outside the gates of the rich people. Then what did he do? Yes, then he went to the dark lanes. Then he went to the dark cities. Not a lanes, cities, children. The lanes means streets. STREETS. So when he went to the dark streets where there was no light also, and the poor people lived there. So there he saw that the children were hungry, due to which their faces had turned white. Have you seen the children? Yes, here it is. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. So what's the condition of the children there? Yes, there he saw the children. They were hungry, due to which their faces had turned white. Okay, then under the archway of a bridge, two little boys were lying in each other's arms to try to keep themselves warm. So then again the swallow had seen two little boys under the archway of the bridge. They were lying there very close to each other so that they kept themselves warm. As I told you, winter has already started. So they were also so poor. They didn't have food. So they were trying to keep each other warm. So what did they say, children? How hungry we are, they said. You must not lie here, shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. So suddenly what happened to their children? Yes, they were too hungry. They were very hungry. By that time, you must not lie here. Who shouted like that? Yes, the watchman. So the two children, they were starving and wondering that how hungry they were. Just then a watchman appeared and scolded them. What did he shout, children? Yes, you must not lie here, he shouted, and made them go away from there. So the poor children keep wandering in the rain as they were homeless. Okay, then he flew back and told the prince what he had seen. So who flew back? The little swallow flew back and told the prince what he had seen. Okay, then I am covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off leaf by leaf and give it to the poor. The living always think that gold can make them happy. So what's going on there, children? Yes, the happy prince, he heard everything. That is what is described by the little swallow. Swallow went back to happy prince and told him what he had seen in the city. So by hearing this, the happy prince took another decision. The happy prince told the swallow that his whole body was covered with a fine gold, as I told you. Okay, so the description, it's in the first paragraph itself, in the opening paragraph. So the happy prince told the swallow that his whole body was covered with fine gold. So he could take tiny pieces of gold from his body and give it to the poor people in need. So all the living beings required money. For what, children? All the living beings required money to lead a comfortable life. So when they would get gold, they would feel happy. So happy prince thought that when they would get gold, they would feel happy. They can lead a comfortable life accordingly. Okay, so he asked the swallow to take off his fine gold from tiny pieces of gold from his body and give it to the poor people. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked quite dull and grey. So what is going on there, children? Slowly the swallow took out the gold layers from the statue of the happy prince, and as he removed the layers of the gold, the happy prince statue started looking dull and grey. So what happened to the statue, children? Yes, slowly the swallow took the gold layers, or took out the gold layers from the statue of the happy prince, and as he removed the layers of the gold, the happy prince's statue started looking dull and grey. Okay, leaf after leaf of the fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played in the street. We have bread now, they cried. So what's the condition of the poor people, children? Yes, as the statue of the happy prince started looking dull and grey, the condition of the children. Yes, the children grew happier. What happened to them, children? The children's faces grew rosier. What's the reason? Because they grew happier, because they thought they were getting food to eat. So now they became healthy. So their faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played in the street. We have bread now, they cried. They cried, we have bread now. Then the snow came, and after the snow came the frost. The streets looked as if they were made of silver. So What is going on there, children? Everybody went out in force, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated on the ice. So then the snow came. Finally, it started snowing, and when a lot of snow fell, everything froze. The streets looked as if they were made of gold. So everyone was wearing clothes made of fur. Small children were wearing red color caps and were roaming here and there. They were skating on the ice. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved them too. He loved him too well. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's door when the baker was not looking and tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. So, what is the condition of the swallow, children? Yes, the swallow. It was feeling very cold, but he kept on sitting near the happy prince's statue. He did not want to leave him because he loved the happy prince very much. Did you get the condition, children? Yes, the poor little swallow was feeling very cold, but he kept on sitting near the happy prince's statue. What's the reason, children? He did not want to leave him because he loved the happy prince very much. Then he picked up crumbs outside the baker's door. So the bird did not want to die. The bird did not want to die, so he used to go to the bakery where the baker used to bake the bread to eat the bread crumbs. Sorry, children, and try to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. So, what he was doing there, children? Yes, the little swallow, it did not want to die. So, what he would do? Yes, he used to go to the nearby bakery, where the baker used to bake the bread to eat the breadcrumbs. So what did he do, children, in the bakery? Yes, he used to go to the bakery to eat the breadcrumbs or small pieces of bread and try to keep himself warm by flapping his wings, by fluttering his wings. But at last he knew that he was going to die. He had just enough strength to fly up to the prince's shoulder once more. So now the swallow was aware. AWARE. Okay, the swallow was aware. The swallow realized that he was going to die. He was about to die. The swallow was aware that he was going to die. At last, he knew that he was going to die. So, he had only enough strength to fly back to the statue of the happy prince. So, what did he do, children? At the last moment, he had only enough strength to fly back to the statue of the happy prince, and he says, "Goodbye, dear prince," he murmured. "Will you let me kiss your hand?" So what is going on there, children? Now the swallow is about to die. He says to the happy prince that he wanted to kiss his hand. He wanted to kiss the happy prince's hand. "Can I kiss your hand?" he asked the little swallow. He asked, "Can I kiss your hand? I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last." So what is going on there, children? "I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow," said the prince. "You have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you." So what's going on there, children? Yes, the happy prince said to the swallow that it had stayed there for a very long time and now it should go to Egypt. It wanted the bird to kiss its lips instead of the hands because the statue loved the bird. So what's going on there, children? Yes, the happy prince thought that he was going to Egypt. So he wanted to kiss his hands. But the reply given by the happy prince was that, "You stayed here for long. So you must kiss me on my lips because I love you." So this is what is the response of the happy prince. He asked him to kiss him on his lips because he loved the happy prince. He loved the swallow very much. "Okay, you have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you." Then what's the reply of the little swallow? "It's not to Egypt that I am going. I am going to the house of death." Death is the brother of sleep, is he not? So he asked the happy prince, "Death is the brother of sleep, is he not? I am going to the house of death." So the swallow said to the happy prince that he was not going to Egypt but to the house of death. Then he added one more thing, "Death is the brother of sleep." He kissed the happy prince on his lips and fell down to the feet of the happy prince and died. So what's the condition, children? Yes, he told the happy prince that he was going to the house of death. Death was the brother of sleep. Then he kissed the happy prince on his lips and fell down dead at his feet. At that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the statue, as if something had broken. The fact is that the leaden heart had snapped right in two. It certainly was a dreadfully hard frost. So, what is going on there, children? As soon as the bird died on the happy prince's feet, an unusual sound came out from the statue. The statue was of breaking the statue's heart, which was made of lead. The heart broke because of the death of his beloved bird. But it is said that it was so cold that the heart broke into two pieces. Did you understand, children? Yes, at that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the statue, as if something had broken. The fact is that the leaden heart had snapped right into the leaden heart had broken into two parts. It certainly was a dreadfully hard frost. It is said that it was so cold that the heart broke into two pieces. Okay, so the last paragraph. Early the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below the company with the town councillors. As they passed the column, he looked up at the statue. "Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks," he said. So what's the meaning of shabby, children, here? Shabby means untidy. So the next morning, what's the content of that paragraph, children? Yes, the next morning, the mayor of the city, along with his councillors, was taking a round of the area where the statue of the happy prince was erected. And when he crossed the statue, he accidentally looked up at it. So he said that the statue of the happy prince looked untidy. Did you understand? "Dear me, oh God, how shabby the happy prince looks." So he told his counselors that the happy prince's statue looked untidy. "How shabby indeed," cried the town councillors, who always agreed with the mayor, and they went up to look at it. So the councillors, as you know, the councillors always agreed with whatever the mayor used to say. So they also confirmed that the statue looked untidy. "Then the ruby has fallen out of his sword, his eyes are gone, and he is golden no longer," said the mayor. "In fact, he is little better than a beggar." So what's going on there, children? Yes, the mayor noticed that the ruby stone which was placed in the handle of the sword was missing. The sapphires from the statue's eyes were also missing, and the layer of the gold from its body was also missing. So in fact, he is a little better than a beggar. "A little better than a beggar," said the town councillors. So, and here is actually a dead bird at its feet, continued the mayor. So they have noticed that the little princess, or the happy princess statue, it became untidy, and at the same time they have noticed a dead bird at his feet, continued the mayor. What did he say? "We must really issue a proclamation that birds are not to be allowed to die here." And the town clerk made a note of the suggestion. So what is going on there, children? Proclamation, proclamation means order or rule. So the mayor noticed that a dead bird was lying on the feet of the statue. Then he told the town councillors to pass an order. See, we must really issue a proclamation that birds are not to be allowed to die here. So what's the order? Yes, then he told his town councillors to pass an order that birds were not allowed to die on the feet of the statue. And the town clerk made a note of the suggestion given by them. Then they pulled down the statue of the happy prince. So what did they do, children? Yes, the mayor asked to pull down the statue of the happy prince. As he is no longer beautiful, he is no longer useful, said the art professor at the university. So the art professor of the university, he was also in the right opinion. He said that now the statue of the happy prince did not look beautiful and was not useful anymore. So they should demolish it. So they decided to pull it down. Then what did they do with the statue? They melted the statue in a furnace. Furnace, what is the meaning of furnace, children? Yes, furnace is a fireplace where metal is melted. Okay, melted. MELTED. A fireplace where metal is melted. Okay, a fireplace where metal is melted, that is what is furnace. So what did they do with the statue? Yes, they decided to melt the statue in a furnace. So at last they melted the statue which was made of lead in a furnace. Then they had seen a strange thing. What a strange thing, said the overseer of the workmen at the foundry. Overseer means supervisor. Foundry means workshop for casting metals. Foundry, workshop for casting metals. Then overseer, as I told you, overseer means supervisor. So they had seen a strange thing. What a strange thing, said the overseer of the workmen at the foundry. So the supervisor of the workshop saw a strange thing. This broken lead heart will not melt in the furnace. We must throw it away. So what's the strange thing they had seen there? Yes, the broken heart. It's not melting. The broken heart, the statue's broken heart, it was not melting in the furnace. So they threw it as it is in a dust heap. So what did they do with the heart, children? Yes, the broken heart, it was thrown away. They threw it on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. So coincidentally, they threw the heart of the happy prince where the dead swallow was also lying. So both of them, the dead body of the little swallow and the heart of the happy prince, both of them lied together. Okay, then bring me the two most precious things in the city, said God to one of his angels. So what is going on there in heaven, children? Yes, God asked one of his angels to bring him the two most precious things of the city. So by seeing, as we know, God had seen everything, isn't it? So God asked one of his angels to bring him the two most precious things of the city. So as the order of the God, the angel brought the two pieces of heart of the statue and the dead swallow bird. So which were the two most precious things of the city? Yes, the two pieces of the heart of the princess statue and the dead swallow bird. Yes, God became very happy. You are rightly chosen, said God, for in my garden of paradise this little bird shall sing forever more, and in my city of gold the happy prince shall praise me. So God became very happy. God said to the angel that it had brought the right thing. It had chosen the right things, which were indeed the most precious things of the city. So he said that the bird would always sing in the garden of his paradise, and the happy prince would stay in his city of gold and admire him or praise him. Did you get the last paragraph, children? You have rightly chosen. He appreciated the angel because in my garden of paradise this little bird shall sing forevermore, and in my city of gold the happy prince shall praise me. So after their death they reached heaven, and both of them continued their life there together. So God said the bird would sing, the bird would always sing in the garden of his paradise, and the happy prince would stay in his city of gold and admire God. Okay, children, that is what is the conclusion of the story. I hope you understood the story very much. It's a very good story, very interesting story. Children, you read the lesson thoroughly and write down the given notes also. Okay, children, thank you so much.